to do, and it's a wonderful concept, is allow the alienation of people from the democratic process. And if you look at it, what's been happening in the last few years, and the report says that, the number of candidates has been increasing. The number of contributions has been increasing. However, cynicism out there has also been increasing. And frankly, I think where this doesn't go far enough, perhaps, is the fact that we are not capturing all the corporations. We have an interesting media which has a split personality. It's supposed to provide you information, as to inform the citizens to be able to make decisions, but they're corporations. Whether it's the CTV Globe Media, whether it's the Troll Star or Sun, whatever and they want to sell papers. And the broadcast media basically gets up in the morning, looks at the papers, and they're all fighting for survival. They know that. We know that. And lo and behold, and therefore they basically they skew, if you will, the information, and by unintentionally, because I don't think any reporter will do so intentionally, basically undermine the democratic process by feeding the citizen a lack of involvement and so forth. So therefore, and I guess maybe that should be tweaked, in terms of how they conduct their electioneering, as corporate entities, because they're trying to influence things. So that's what I think. And interesting enough, I think Councillor Moscow, and others and the citizens should be praised for being a third-party view of that, between those who are elected or seek to be elected, the general population, and I guess the media, which is another of the estates, I guess, if you go back to the French Revolution, fourth estate. That's right. So therefore, and we need the sort of that element of the citizen to basically watch and comment and tweak. And I would like to think that maybe they should look at the media concentration issue in terms of seeing what the role it's playing in the democratic process as well, and whether that should be tweaked. Anyway, and again, if you look at the newspapers have reported, and I think they've done a good job on this area, how the fact that the City of Toronto has the least amount of corporate donations in terms of as a percentage in the GTA, while others are much more reliant. So if you want civic engagement, and and it's hard to do, it's easier to go to a few people and get a lot of money than going to lots of people and get less money sometimes. But nevertheless, that's if one truly is involved in the democratic process and believes it from from one's bones, then that's what has to do. That's what this is, a good evolutionary process which needs to be supported as unanimous as possible, knowing that it's work in progress.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Pantalone. Councillor McConnell, Mahevic, Carroll, and Fletcher in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I don't have any motions, but I certainly do have some emotions about this. I am quite concerned that that we increase the number of women that are around this council, as well as the visible minority component. And I don't think we're going to do that as long as we keep our donation packages to large groups or corporations. And I think that in all of the work that I've done, both federally and here, through the Protégé program, and the work that the Maitri organization is doing around campaign work, one of the big stumbling blocks for people to get elected is not putting their name on the ballot, but having sufficient resources, both human resources and networks, as well as finances. And until we get to a point, and I recognize that that point won't happen here in this term, in next term, and perhaps not even in the term after that, until we get to a point where this city supports people running for election through a proper grant program, we are going to always face these not quite perfect solutions. I have been interested, however, to hear how people will have opposition to this and the rationale to opposition for these obvious steps forward. And I'm very disappointed by that. I'm very disappointed about the mudslinging that occurs around every debate around council, but particularly around this kind of a debate. It seems to me that what we're trying to do is make things better so that people who are not prosperous and who are not influential can move forward to do what I think is so amazing about our system, and that is to represent the people in their neighborhood. And it's as simple as that. They don't have to be to know Bay Street. They don't have to know fancy lawyers. They don't have to know union leaders. They just have to have support of their neighbors. And I think that certainly our wards are bigger than just one neighborhood, but we're striving to ensure that the voices around the table represent all of the parts of our city. And I'm very saddened, actually, when we get to discussing participatory democracy and how we can increase transparency and accountability. And in fact, I think we had a very good example of accountability, because you could find all of those things by pushing a Google on a machine, on a computer. And so, you know, this actually argues for why we should be doing what the recommendations are. But I am sad when we continue to throw mud at members of this council and at the council itself, because I think it does a disservice to the people of the City of Toronto. It allows the reporting to be jaded. It allows people to be going at each other's throats instead of trying to do what I think we should be proud of. And that is that we have an accountable system, we have a transparent system that should make our Torontonian people proud, and that we should be leading in this. And that leadership is being taken up right across the country, and it is being taken up globally as well. And we should be so pleased that here in this city, that anyone can stand for election, and with these kinds of moves forward, can actually win elections, as opposed to in other places where even putting your name on the ballot can get you murdered. And in fact, in most recently in Mali, we had a mayor who was murdered because she was a woman. And so I think that we should be celebrating our access to democracy and encouraging our people to understand and educating them to know how lucky we are and how these are rules that support and protect them from the erosion of this precious thing called democracy.
Thank you, Councillor. Next speaker is Councillor Mihevc. Councillor Mihevc, the clerk has advised that it might be possible to submit proposed amendments before Thursday, I think, is the absolute final deadline. The deadline passed at noon today. Yeah. All of our proposals that were before Council were tabled with the staff of the province, but not at the committee because the hearings were so quick. And there's some doubt about whether the absolute deadline for amendments is noon today or Thursday, but it won't be before us. Council won't be able to do anything, but I want you to know that before you spoke, since you raised the issue. And you're the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. I think if I were to have moved amendments on that previous point, I would have done it with 37.1. Because I think we all want those dates to change, but it seems like the province is on the right track there, so I won't move anything.
Apologies.
But I do have some comments to make around 37.2, and I'll be supporting the motion to change the bylaw to prohibit corporate and trade union contributions. And I have a few points that I want to make. First is that this is not about good guys versus bad guys. And, you know, some of the phone calls that I'm getting and the emails that I'm getting is that if I don't vote for the ban, then obviously my hand is, or someone's hand, I'm in someone else's pocket, or someone else that is having undue influence on me. And I'm making that point because I don't think Howard and Denzel, frankly, in making their points, are under anyone's control or are really just seeking to continue the corporate influence. All of us are asking questions and trying to figure this out on a systemic level. What system is a better system to allow what? At the end of the day, to allow the people's will through an election process to be established.